Hi everyone, I'm Connor Moss. I'm a psychotherapist based in Oakland, California, and also available for online sessions anywhere in California. I wanted to talk today about a topic that I hear a lot about, and that is the inner critic. A lot of people seem to struggle with a voice inside their head that's constantly telling them that they're not enough, or not doing enough, or not doing whatever they are doing the right way. So I wanted to talk a little bit about what that inner critic might be, why it might have gotten there in the first place, and a couple of different ways you might think about trying to address it. So first of all, what is the inner critic? Like I said, it's this negative voice inside your head that's just constantly criticizing you every step of the way. If you do something and your first response is, that was wrong, people are going to judge me, that wasn't the right thing to do, that's your inner critic speaking up. And of course, a little bit of that is helpful to kind of check ourselves and make sure we're not, overstepping or doing, terrible things in the world. But most people tend to have more caution than they need, and the inner critic might be extremely strong and might just be triggered all day long constantly. So, you order coffee and, you might think that was the wrong thing, that was the wrong order, I said that wrong. Or you talk to your friend and you're constantly judging yourself on how you sound. So when it gets to that level, this is, really a problematic inner critic that, you don't need in your life, and it just kind of gets in the way. So where does this type of thing come from? Very often, an inner critic can come from childhood experiences of being told that you're not enough or you're not good enough. If you hear something about yourself, especially as a kid, that you're not doing something right or you're wrong, you really take those ideas in. Especially as kids, we don't really have filters to assess. Are our parents or our teachers or our peers, or do they have an accurate read on how I am, or are they just kind of projecting their own stuff on us? So we kind of just take that all in wholesale. So if you have had a parental figure or peers, in your childhood or earlier life that were constantly criticizing you or telling you that you weren't okay, you might internalize that idea and you might really believe that. And it might come up in later life as this inner critic voice. So yeah, and you might also just internalize someone else's idea about you. So if there is someone who's constantly criticizing you, that voice can just be their voice, but it's stuck inside your head. So if someone criticizes you enough, they can kind of worm their way into your brain, and without you really wanting it, that voice might just come up at random moments or inopportune moments, despite having no real relation to how you're actually acting in your life. So what do you do about something like this? So the first step is really to identify it. Like a fish talking about water, if you don't recognize that this is happening, it's extremely hard to try to address it. It just feels like you really are bad, or, that you're really doing things wrong in your life. So the first step is to really be able to see it for what it is. You can't address it if you don't know it's happening. So if you really do believe this voice, you really think that you are wrong, or you don't kind of recognize the criticism, it's just kind of part of your daily inner chatter, then it's going to be really hard to try to, address it or counter it. So the first step is really to be able to see. So if you're at this stage, I'd recommend just really noticing when the inner critic comes in, and just kind of telling yourself, okay, there's my inner critic right there. Every time you tell yourself that you're not good enough, or you did something wrong, or you're judging yourself, just kind of note for yourself, there's my inner critic. And over time, as you do this, you might start to develop more of an awareness of where is your inner critic and where is, other parts of your psyche, of yourself. So once you've kind of identified it, it can be helpful to like personify it. I know this sounds kind of silly, but you could even give it a name. Imagine like what it might look like. This can be like someone in your life or just an idea. You could call it Bob, and every time it comes in, just kind of say, "Oh, there's Bob." And I know this sounds kind of silly, but it actually really helps to kind of recognize that this voice is not you, but it's a part of you. And if you can kind of see this part and give it a name, it helps to separate it out from just feeling like it's like you, it's your own voice. So you can give it a name, you can give it, just kind of recognize it as the separate entity that's kind of running through your head. And once you personify it, it can be really helpful to like, you don't want to like get rid of it. You don't want to judge it because that's where it's coming from in the first place. It's coming from a judging place. So if you judge it, you're just judging yourself more, and you can go down this rabbit hole. So what you want to try to think about instead is actually befriending this voice. I know this might sound kind of counterintuitive, but you don't want to let it walk all over you, but you also want to kind of befriend this voice and say, oh yeah, here's Bob, the inner critic. I see you. You're here to criticize me. Wow, that must be, you must really think I'm a bad person. And then gently but firmly saying, right now, Bob, I don't actually need your help. I know you're just trying to make sure that I'm not messing up in my life, but I've got it from here. I don't actually need you to come in right now. So that gentle, compassionate kind of attitude towards this part of yourself, I think will help you kind of navigate and move through it. So it's actually kind of about forming a relationship, a compassionate relationship with this critical voice, rather than just trying to cut it out, get rid of it, or judge it more. So the third idea I have for how you might address this, and this might be a little controversial to some people, but it's fake it till you make it. If you don't feel confident, if you don't feel like you're good in your life, what you repeatedly tell yourself about yourself, you will start to believe, just like what other people told you about yourself. So if you're, stuck in this idea of like, oh, I'm not good enough, I'm bad, the things I'm doing are bad, you're gonna start to believe that. So if you can fake a smile and say, I am good, I am okay, the things I'm doing are good. It might feel difficult and disingenuous at first, but over time you're going to start to develop this idea and internalize this feeling that actually I am okay. And some people talk about this like a positive affirmation, or in Buddhist psychology they talk about like a mantra that if you say enough, it will start to affect how you think. And one mantra that I think can be helpful for this inner critic idea is what's called the metta meditation. And it goes like this. It says, may I be happy, may I be healthy, may I be well, may I be peaceful and at ease. And there's a couple different variations, but that's the general idea. And this is something that, even if you don't believe that you deserve this or that you want this or that you can have this, if you kind of sit with this idea daily or multiple times a day and say this to yourself, it's something that's just going to start to seep in. So, with self-criticism, you can adapt that to your own idea. You can think of, a mantra of like, I am okay, I am good, and you just, every time you remember, you repeat that to yourself a couple times throughout the day, and slowly over time, even though you don't really feel like you're good, you can start to work that in, and you might start to convince yourself that you are actually okay. So if you're working with this type of thing, it can be helpful to like write a note on your phone or a calendar reminder or post it on a post-it note on your mirror. And every time you see it, you just say to yourself, I am okay, I am good, or may I be happy, may I be healthy, may I be well, may I be peaceful and at ease. And slowly over time, hopefully that will help you believe that. So my next idea about how to address the inner critic is to do what I call putting it on trial. So you're having these negative thoughts about yourself, you're not good enough, you're not a good person. Why not assess the objective evidence on whether this is true or not? So if you imagine this thought, I am not good, you imagine it on trial, there would be, evidence for and evidence against, and you can write it down. What's the evidence that I actually am a bad person? Okay, like the other day I, jaywalked, or I haven't called my grandma in a long time, or something like that. Okay, so write that down. There's the evidence for. And what's the evidence against? Well, the other day I volunteered at a homeless shelter, or, my partner told me that I was being really helpful the other day. So it's helpful to keep it to really objective, observable phenomena. If you talk about subjective things like I'm a good person, that it's hard to convince yourself of that. So, but something objective, something you see, hear, observe in your life, it's hard to argue with that. If someone tells you you're doing a good job, you can secretly think that they're lying, but the evidence is that you are doing a good job. So putting something on trial just means taking a look at what's the objective evidence, what's the evidence for this idea, what's the evidence against this idea, and hopefully this can help you kind of see that it's probably not the entire truth. There's probably some evidence for this and some evidence against it, and you can kind of work with those ideas. So my last idea on how to work with the inner critic is from DBT, which is called dialectical behavioral therapy. It's just a school of thought on how to address thoughts and behaviors. I'm not sure exactly what they call it. I like to call them even though statements. So I think in DBT they call it dialectics because there's two opposing sides of an idea that you're holding at once. So the idea with an even though statement is to take something negative that you feel about yourself and recognize that the opposite is probably also true a little bit. So if if you feel like you're really bad or you're doing something bad, that's one side of the idea. The other side is that you might be good. So an even though statement would go something like, even though I feel really bad about myself right now, there are some things that I'm doing well. Okay, so or even though I haven't cleaned my room in a while, I still got up early and was productive today. Even though I haven't called my grandma, I'm trying to reach out more to my friends and family. So it's just kind of seeing a crack in this idea that you're all bad and trying to find, a little bit of the opposite, which is almost always also true. So those are my ideas on, how to address the inner critic and how to kind of move through it and stop believing all these negative things you're telling about yourself. I hope this was helpful and gives you some ideas on how to be kinder to yourself. If you're struggling with this type of thinking, I really just want to tell you that I know how hard it can be. I know how hard it can be to try these new ideas, especially with your inner critic kind of telling you that you're doing it wrong the whole time. But what's most important is that you're at least researching and trying to get help if you found this video. So I think that's really important that you're looking for support. That means at least a part of you doesn't believe what your inner critic is saying. So I really wish you the best with working with this inner critic, and I hope that you can, over time, find a way to be kinder to yourself. And if you or a loved one are needing support with this type of thing, you're always welcome to reach out to me. I do couples therapy, trauma therapy, and drug and alcohol counseling, like I said, in Oakland, California, and also online for California residents, and I'm always happy to chat. Okay, that's it. I hope this was helpful, and I'll see you all next time. Take care.